Hello listeners, just a quick message before we start today. Unfortunately this week we had a little bit of audio difficulties with our guest's audio track. So we're going to need to do a little bit of work on it, but I did want to let you know that we had a fantastic conversation with Snatch2497. We learned a little bit about what he likes to play, about his gaming history, and then we delved into a topic that was kind of fascinating, and I think it relates to all of us. So we will have that up in the next few weeks. So today, it's just me and Mindy. It's a fairly relaxed and chilled episode. So, pull up your favourite game, pull up your easy game, pull up a drink, pull up a chair. Let's get started.
It's time for Push to Play, your weekly trophy podcast with Mindy and CJ.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us to episode 22 of Push to Play. Well, what a week! 2 podcasts in 1 week, but we're finally catching up, listeners. Touch wood, everything holds together today. No wheels fall off the train, but we shall see as we go. Mindy, how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been okay. It feels like it's been 2 days since I spoke to you last.
It's almost like a little stalkerish, isn't it?
Yeah, from halfway across the globe. That's impressive and a little creepy.
Yes, yeah. When my name comes up on the PS4 thing, you must quickly have to go offline now so that I don't see you. So we have a little bit of distance.
Absolutely. Appear as offline. That's me.
Look, I do notice. Look, let's sidebar for a second, listeners. Come closer. Come in. Get ready. Get your drink ready. We're about to start. But I just want to have a little sidebar here. Do you actually play on that offline mode quite a lot? Is that? Do you like that? Do you?
It depends. Sometimes I will just turn off my internet connection on my PS4.
Okay.
It depends on if I'm getting a lot of messages at once, because I'm in a couple of group chats, so sometimes there's nothing, but sometimes there will be a lot because people are talking to each other.
Yes.
So if that happens, it's annoying. It's pulling focus. So I'll kind of pause the game, go into settings, and disconnect from my internet. I think I would say the only time I do it is when I don't want online invites, but they can see you anyway. They can still send you an invite. So I guess that doesn't really work.
No, I just noticed you have a tendency. There's a few people on my friends list that haven't been online for 30 days or whatever yet. They're slamming out the trophies. So look, I fully embrace the appear offline mode as well. Sometimes, usually when I don't want to have to accidentally play some Division or something else, and I'm trying to hide, but not all the time or whatever else. But it is a good feature. I'm glad that they did bring that along. Now, actually, see, we're sidebarring. I'm going to just sidebar a little bit more because last week I got introduced to this fantastic app. Now, this is not a new app. It's been around since 2015, I think. It is a free app. I think if you like it, you can pay them $1 or something, as a thank you for making or whatever. Now, I don't know if you know this app, Mindy. It's possible you do, and I'm just living under a rock. That would not surprise me, but it's called the YAPSN app. Have you ever heard of this thing?
No.
So for like a phone or a device? So it's pretty cool. It's basically, listeners, if you haven't come across it before, YAPSN app. So I know it's available on the iOS store. I'm sure it's on the Android store as well. And as I said, it is a free app. I think if you get the free version, it might throw some advertising in. But if you give them $1, if you like it, that removes it. But I'm not 100% sure if there is any advertising at all. And basically, it runs like a mask over the PSN app that you can have on your phone anyway. And look, I think it's fantastic. So it shows you all the same information or whatever else. But one of the cool things it does is it puts like a little red flag up against the different people's names and how many trophies they've earned since you last, logged on or looked at it. So, I could open it up now and I could see that, Mindy's earned no trophies since last time. But look, that's not surprising. But, there are other people on here that are like, look at that, like 48. Like, that's insane. Anyway, that sort of thing. So that's interesting. So, if you're looking for games or potentially, but the other cool thing, and this is why I really like it, is that if you go into your own profile, it'll show you the games that you're playing, like the PSN app does. But then you go to the specific trophy, and if you click on it, it will actually link you to the guide for that trophy. So it doesn't work for all games, but it seems to link with PlayStationTrophies.org. And you can either see the full guide or just the description for the trophy. And if it doesn't come up with the guide, it comes up with like a little search engine that you can search for that trophy name yourself. So it's sort of like a one-stop shop, if you like, Mindy. I don't know. I like it.
That's interesting. I honestly, until you brought that up, I was like, well, what's the point of it? Now I see it. There is a plugin. It's not an app, and I wish it was an app. And I can't, for the life of me, remember the name of it now that I'm talking about it. It's like a widget that you install in your browser. Not a widget, a plugin that you install in your browser. And so go to like the PSN store, installs like a little toolbar on the top with a drop down menu, and you can filter like, what have I bought on this system? What have I bought on this system?
I like that.
And it's a lot easier than just kind of scrolling through your library or just thinking of a game and typing it in and seeing if it comes up as purchased or purchasable.
Ooh, now that is something that I need. Thank you for that. See, I'm learning something every day. I'm gonna write that down now, the widget.
I'm sure I'll remember it midway through the podcast.
Just scream it out randomly. Metroidvania, widget name, whatever comes to you is totally fine. But look, I'm very interested in that, and I have not used the word widget for some time, so I'm glad that I get to use it now. That's great. Yeah, look. Fantastic.
Yeah, and well, here's the thing. Just because it's you and me this week doesn't mean. So you already brought up Metroidvania, so that's one checklist.
That's true.
And I will say, in the most recent summer sale on the U.S. store,
yes,
I bought the Mega Man X Legacy Collection.
Oh,
so
lovely.
Might be talking Mega Man in some future podcasts.
Is this one that you haven't played, or you just haven't played on PlayStation?
I haven't played on PlayStation. This is so the X Legacy Collection. There were 8 Mega Man X games, and I stopped after 5. The first 3 were on Super Nintendo, and that's my jam. Those were my wheelhouse Mega Man X games. 4 was on PS1, and I want to say maybe just PS1. Maybe it was on Sega Saturn. It was a disc-based game instead of a cartridge game, and all the subsequent ones were like PS2, and they stopped after the PS2, I believe. But I was really, really good at 1 through 3. I actually, we had Korn on here last week, and he talked about making games harder for himself. And I played Mega Man X so much. I'm sure I can't do it anymore. But I had built up such muscle memory for some stages, like the Storm Eagle stage, that I could do it with my eyes closed. Like I had timed it to certain beats in the music. So I started playing with the sound off, or like, the stereo on. And the muscle memory was still good, but it did throw me off, my timing off a bit, more than I thought. So it wasn't just the muscle memory, it was definitely syncing it to the music. So that's, it's a little sad, but it's also interesting.
That is interesting, yeah. Now, I noticed you didn't ask me about Mega Man. I thought that was the standard question.
No, it's just that I brought it up because you don't like it.
That's true. Well, look,
I already know your answer.
Well, just in case we have new listeners, just to keep the trend going, because next week we may have a guest, we may need to use it. CJ, do you like Mega Man? No.
CJ, what are your feelings on Mega Man?
Look, I did see it on the sale as well, and for a brief second I thought, this could be a laugh, and that was as close as I got to it. So yeah, no, it's not going to happen for me. Yeah, there's a few things I define my life by, Mindy. We've never talked about this, listeners, so I think it's okay to drop it in here. And one of the things is that I've never seen The Sound of Music in any form, and I think I'm probably one of the last people on earth that can still claim that, and I hope to live my whole life. Yes, I know, it's a fascinating insight, but I think I can also go to my grave saying that I never played Mega Man. I think that will be acceptable to me.
I think it would be more culturally relevant if you watched Sound of Music, so you should try to do that.
Well, I watched, like, I lie, listeners. I saw a couple of seconds of it where they go, they're up on the hill, they're singing, there's goats or whatever, and that was enough. That was enough for me. But look, I understand it's a culturally significant, life-defining moment for many people. I'm always fascinated by how many times people have seen it, actually. So there you go. Maybe I'll bookmark that for never and get around to that then.
Well, just do like you do with video games. Just, watch the first 20 minutes.
Well, that's true. Maybe that's the best part. We should never know. So, look, I have a question for you, Mindy. This is the third time I've tried to get it out, so it's not like you're trying to avoid it, I'm sure. This is a different sort of question. You just have to go with the first thing that you're thinking.
Oh, gosh.
Okay? Here we
Oh,
go.
gosh.
If you could, would you?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Well, you can take it however you like. If you could, would you?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I see how this game is played. Yeah, probably.
Excellent. Would you like to let us on what you're thinking that you would probably?
Not at all.
Oh,
Not at all.
Excellent. Yes. Well, look, listeners, that
there's this interesting little game. Say what you will about American talk show hosts, take them or leave them. I actually don't really watch them, but I do know that one of them, I think it's Jimmy Fallon, has, because they all play like games with their guests, and I think Jimmy Fallon has one.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're always trying to get celebrities to like dish, and of course they never do, because that would be, career suicide to spill the tea. But Jimmy Fallon has a version where it's like, I'll give you the answer, the truthful answer, but it's my choice as to whether or not I let you know what the question is. Yeah, that's a fun. We should do that sometime.
We will, yeah. I think we might need to have like an after dark pay-per-view episode or something, just to make sure that the kiddies are restrained there. Break out your credit card to prove your age or something. Yeah. Who knows? We will definitely have to come back to that. So look, we're straddling across to some gaming talk today. What have you been playing in these last few days?
Not a ton. I've gotten back into Red Dead Redemption 2 because I will beat this game. I will platinum this game even if it kills me, and it just might. I'm at that infuriating point where I've run out of stuff that's like pretty quick to unlock. So it's a grindy stuff to unlock. So like there's a trophy for studying every animal in the game, and there's a trophy for skinning every animal in the game, like killing and skinning them.
Are these randomly spawning animals or?
Ish.
Yeah.
It's like all those other games where like they're always there unless you specifically want it, and then they're nowhere.
Have you managed to skin the RNGesus yet, or are you still on the hunt?
Not quite yet. I did get one of the RNGesus animals. There are 2 different kinds of panthers in this game.
Of course.
And they both spawn in the exact same spot, and they're already rare spawns.
They don't happen to be identical, do they, basically?
I don't know, because I haven't seen the other one.
That's the mythical panther.
So thankfully, okay, so there's a point in the game where you're on this island that has its own separate species, and you can't get back to this island. You're on this island for a very short period of time. Thankfully, none of those animals count towards either of these trophies.
Oh, that's good.
I know, right? But the problem is this game has birds, and it has tiny birds, like very tiny little birds. And the problem here is that the game refuses, like if you're lucky and if the animal is moving slow enough, you can zoom in your binoculars and study it, because it takes several seconds. You hold down one of the trigger buttons and a little meter fills up, and then you've studied it, right? If you're lucky and the animal's moving slow enough, you can just kind of follow along and study it. You can't really do that with birds. And even though there are some that are big enough that feels like you should be able to, the game won't let you do it. And the birds never stay still long enough for you to study them, because if you add a distance where they're not just going to take off, you're generally too far away from them that if you zoom in, it still won't let you study it. The other problem is that there are some tiny birds, very tiny birds.
Oh.
And also, because this game is in love with its own realism, there's a lot of leaves blowing around the screen.
Oh, excellent.
So you're just on like massive twitch attack where you're like, was that a bird or was it a leaf? Was it a bird or a leaf? And it'll drive you crazy, man. It will drive you crazy.
The only element of fun that seems to be missing here, and I'm sure you can enlighten me now, is the fact of, does the game track these animals when you've discovered them, or not? Do you have to
Yes.
keep track of that?
Yes,
Oh, you do.
there is a compendium, and it will tell you if you have killed it will tell you if you have studied it, and it will tell you if you have skinned it.
Okay, so at least you have a list of what you still have to find then. That's
Yes.
something, I suppose. Yeah.
And it's not too terribly much, but they're all birds.
Oh, it's interesting.
Let's see, 1, 2 Oh, I've got this damn panther, and then the rest of them are birds, except for I seem to have missed a, type of wolf because, I killed it before I studied it because I didn't know there were 2 kinds of wolves. It's the kinda thing, if you're gonna play Red Dead Redemption 2, do not just leave it. Like, work on it towards, while you're playing the game, and, it'll be a lot less. But right now, I think I have about 15 animals I have to find, which could be far, far worse, but
Hmm.
could be a lot better too.
I notice here that it looks like, and I imagine these are bigger than, I'm just saying by throwing it out here, but it looks like you have sort of maybe 2 story mission trophies left, if I'm sort of reading that correctly. So are you pretty close to the end and you're just cleaning up, or is there still a long way to go to get to the end of the story?
There's still a couple story missions left. My last, like, story trophy I earned was complete Red Dead Redemption, right?
Yes.
That's, like, the main story, and
Oh,
then there's
okay.
an epilogue that has several more missions, and that's the remaining couple of
Okay.
trophies.
Okay.
So I've completed the main narrative of the game, and now I kinda took a break before starting the epilogue to clean up some more stuff.
Okay, cool. And I noticed that you're delving into the online side of this game. Tell me, talk to me about this. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know about this. Maybe it's just because it's early days and what I remember of the Red Dead Redemption 1 online was after they had added several DLC packs, but there's not a whole lot here. It's a big open world, right? And there are activities. It's not that there aren't activities, but as I recall the first one, like there was still plenty that you could just walk up and do. You could walk up and play, gamble or, just shoot people in the map, which was a lot smaller the first game, by the way. This one, there's some activities. There's one for like you and 6 other players are gonna go fishing for 15 minutes and see who catches the most weight of fish, or see how many targets you can shoot, but you can also shoot each other, or I can't even remember if there is just a straight up deathmatch. There is. Or you can do stagecoach robberies or things like that. But there's a lot of just empty space around. It's probably just there, and then they're gonna add stuff in later. Do you remember there was a rumor, and I hope they don't do this, that they were gonna do, battle royale mode because that's the new big online thing.
Oh, yes, of
Thanks
course. Yeah.
thanks, PUBG.
Maybe
And,
maybe they could get some tips from Fallout 76 there from Bethesda.
right,
A giant world with nothing to do. Yes.
right. But there is also and it could just be because, in fairness, there is a story mode in the online, and so it may very well be that there is nothing around because
Ah,
I haven't finished
okay.
the online story mode, and maybe things unlock as you go through the story mode, but I kind of feel like that's not true, but I will report back when I know more.
Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see because I mean, obviously, their GTA 5 they support that heavily online, and even this week we get the new content with the casino pack coming through there and missions as well. So I imagine that this game will probably be similar. It will continue to gain content as it goes. So it will be interesting to see. But you can definitely let us know on that. Yeah, and something else, or is that been taking all your time?
It's been mostly that. I did also put Minecraft on my profile.
Ah, the blight that is
The
Minecraft.
big one.
Excellent. Suddenly, every child's ears pricked up, or every child that hasn't heard about Fortnite yet.
I am not a child. So,
No, I know, but it's a popular game for
no, it is
the
very
younger.
popular, and it's definitely not my thing. I'm not that kind of creative, because you do need a sort of kind of, I suppose, architectural mind, I think,
Hmm.
to really have fun in this game, to build, you know, for building things. I'm not very good at that, but I do have a friend who is
Yes.
very, very good at it.
How handy for you.
And so he's built these very expansive and beautiful worlds that all they do is unlock trophies. So as a result, in a little over 24 hours, about 28 hours, there are 111 trophies in Minecraft. I have 108 of them. One of them is the platinum. The three I don't have. One of them is the platinum. One of them is for spending 30 some odd real hours in the game. And one of them is a glitch DLC trophy.
So when you say 28 hours, is that sort of like 28 hours of active play, or does that include this other stuff? Like,
No, I would say we spent probably 8 or 9 hours together.
to do it all.
Over 2 days, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Yeah. And is it? I don't understand exactly how this works. Like, I understand a bit of the word. Is it a situation you go into the world and you go from place to place, or do you need a Sherpa? Like, does he show you what to do, sort of thing?
He walked me through it. He invited me into his map, and then we were on a headset, and he walked me through. He was like, "Okay, now pick this up. Now press this button," and
Excellent. So like a Minecraft Sherpa. I like that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, basically.
Will you only be doing this on the PS4? Because I see there's numerous stacks across Vita and PS3 and PSN.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know. If I just really want a boost, because they stopped releasing DLC on Vita, which is good, and PS3, I think. So if I ever want just a boost and I'm willing to sit down and do this again, I'm not against it, but I'm not actively looking to do it again.
They still seem to be adding PS4 DLC, don't they? Like the last one was not that long ago, so
yeah.
I just noticed 111 trophies and 3,000 points. Obviously, this it does not come under the normal trophy rules for games, although it probably still has some room.
No, and there are still a few. Like, I think Shadow of the Tomb Raider had 100 and
Well, it has a lot, doesn't it? That's right. The King of the Bronze, that game. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all bronzes, aren't they? I'm sorry, not Shadow. Rise of the Tomb Raider had 125 trophies.
Oh, so they still have plenty of them.
And the majority are bronze. But then let's go back to my favorite bugbear, which is Hitman 2, which has so many trophies that they have another list just for the spillover trophies.
Well, they were cunning. They managed to put the first game back into the second game.
Yeah, they did.
That's quite an achievement.
They did.
Which makes you more nervous for the third game, doesn't it? What might happen?
Yeah, it really kind of does. So Hitman 2 base list is 125 trophies. So it sounds like that's the max that you can have. And then we've got Hitman 2 additional expansions, aka all the actual Hitman 2 DLC, because all of the Hitman 1 DLC just made up the list of Hitman 2 DLC. Yeah. It's confusing, I know.
It is. I'll be very interested to hear your opinions on that game when you start it, because it's not really my type of game, the stealth genre, but I do hear that it is fantastic. So when I
had a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with the Hitman games. My problem with these lists is they all have, and this is just for the reboots for Hitman and Hitman 2. And they do it to keep you on the game, but each one of them, you need mastery level 20, which means you are doing these assassinations over and over and over again after you've done like most, if not all, of the unique stuff, right? Like that I understand. Like, let's see all the unique assassinations we can do on this map. But once you've done that, you still probably haven't hit level 20, which means you got to say, fine, okay, so I'll do generic assassination that I can do on any map, and I guess I'll do it with a different weapon, and that'll give me some more XP. And that at that point, it's a grind as opposed to an interesting grind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's been my only problem with these lists, is that level 20 trophy.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. So yeah, you would really get to know the levels well then if you're playing it that much. Yeah, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think I prefer my stealth in the form of like Assassin's Creed stealth, where you sort of start off in stealth and then you slip over the edge or something, and then all hell breaks loose, and then it doesn't matter anymore. I think that's the limit of my stealth ability.
Well, and you could, to be fair, you can do that with Hitman. Like Thief, you couldn't do that with.
Okay.
Hitman, if you're in, if you
No.
get put into combat, you still have a chance. And if you can get out of the combat, then you can get back into stealth. Like I said, Thief, the Thief reboot. If you were out of stealth, you just die. Like, don't even try.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I definitely will not touch that game. Interesting. See, I find this Minecraft fascinating. The closest I've come to Minecraft is the Telltale Minecraft story mode, which was fine or whatever else. But the game doesn't interest me at all. But yet, I quite like Dragon Quest Builders and the Dragon Quest Builders too. That's just I do quite like that game, and the similarities are quite clear in both those games. So I don't know. There's no real story in Minecraft, the game, is there? Maybe that's the difference.
No, there's no story.
The Dragon's Quest have a somewhat story in them or whatever else. So, yeah, interesting. Well, look, you've been playing quite a bit in the last couple of days.
I guess not so much quantity, but quality. I guess.
Yeah, but I'm not used to that word. What was it? Sorry. No, I can't say it, listeners. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll just stick with the quantity. Thank you. Yeah, but it is true though, isn't it? You can put in a lot of time into some of these big games like Red Dead Redemption 2, and it does feel like you're hardly tipping the meter forward at all.
You're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, but then it all comes together at the end, I suppose. Well, that's what they tell me. I don't know. Something about quantity and quality. Who knows? So, yeah. Anything else you want to throw out there, or happy?
No, that's all I've been playing.
Oh, perfect. So, listeners, look, I've been playing not much in the last couple of days, to be honest with you. But I will have to give a shout out to the fantastic Hoggy 2. Now you might be saying Hoggy 2. I didn't see this at E3. I haven't seen this in the state of play. The Hoggy 2 is not on the.
I haven't seen Hoggy 1. Is this like a Leisure Suit Larry 4 thing?
You're not familiar with the original Hoggy. Well, that's unfortunate for you, and I would recommend you pursue it, because Hoggy 2 is everything you wanted from Hoggy 1, but more. Really, that's all I can say about it, other than the fact that we now have Hogatha has come in, the partner to Hoggy. I'm not sure of their relationship exactly. I believe it's more of a de facto type relationship at this stage. But, look, it is what it is. It does have this funny mechanic where the two Hoggy and Hogathas start together, and if you move intimately close to Hogatha, I should say, sorry, maybe if you even take Hogatha, from the side, always from the side, the preferred method. You sort of merge together, you have a bit of a kiss, and then you switch over and you become the other character. So I'm not sure if you can play this game in co-op. I really hope you can, because if you're just playing it by yourself, it doesn't really seem to you can't control the two characters at once. But you don't need to. The brilliance of Hoggy 2 is you can play it by yourself. And, if you're still on the fence about it, you don't know what it is a puzzle game where you collect fruits. And it's, it starts off easy and then progressively gets harder. Like a typical rat game, it is full of content that you don't need to play, but it's there if you want it, which is the point. It's a choice, listener. You can choose to play more or you can choose to play less. And that's what life is about. It's about choices. So if you make the choice to play less, and look, I do not judge you for that, of course, you're looking at about a 30-minute experience on Hoggy 2. But if you want to really feel, if you want to associate with the hog, then you could spend much longer. I believe there's like 200 levels, 100 or 200, but you only need to do 20. It has a lovely kid mode, which doesn't have much difference to the normal mode. You make your own assumptions there, listeners, if I'm talking about the difficulty of the normal mode being like a child mode, but that's up for you to decide as you go. There are many wonderful video guides available. You don't need any of them to play this game. It is very straightforward. I think the only trophy that potentially is missable is you have to get a star in one of the levels. There are many stars in many of the levels, so you can just choose which star you pursue. There is a lovely boss battle at the end of the first 20 levels. It's not what you would probably call taxing or challenging, but it's engaging, and that's the important thing here. You will feel at the end of this experience that you did get your money's worth at coming in, I think, at $3 or $4 NA. And if you don't feel you got your money's worth, well, at least you got 2 plats, because it is a cross-buy title that I know we all love. So look, I think, Hoggy 2 for this week. I think I know there's some other big releases, but get on this first and then get off and on to something else. But look, what else have I done? Look, I did. Oh, I forgot about this. So, Arcade Archives Road Fighter. Now, I have a mixed history with the Arcade Archive games. I don't know. Have you played any of these, Mindy?
I haven't played like specifically the Arcade Archives game. What I have done is I have played some of the games that they are. So like they put out what did they put out? Like Rygar? Like I've played Rygar,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Rygar was an Arcade Archives
Mhm.
game, right? I think they did I'm just looking it up really quickly. So I haven't played the specific like trophy ones, but a lot of these are like NES games that I have played in the past. So I think I just the ones that come to mind are Rygar is the one that always comes to mind, and I don't quite know why. Awesome soundtrack, by the way. If you are a video game soundtrack kind of person. So like Contra, of course, Contra. Athena, I have played. Stay away from Athena. I don't know how long the Arcade Archives version requires you to play it,
Mm.
but it has some of the worst controls you will ever see in an NES
Are
game.
you a Metal Slug person? I know there's a lot of Metal Slugs in the series.
No, I'm really not. Oh, they did Wonder Boy. I've played Wonder
They
Boy,
did
not
too.
an NES game, but I have played it.
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden, I have not beaten it, but I have played it.
A lot of Ninja Warrior games and King of Fighters games as well. Many King of Fighters
A
in
lot
the
of those,
collection.
yeah.
So, listeners, to give you an idea, if you're not familiar with these games, there are currently 179 games in this series, with a whopping, I just noticed, a whopping 1,161 trophies on offer. They're all
And
100% games.
they're not cheap. Like the rack games are all cheaper than these Arcade
No,
Archives games.
no, not
If
at
you're
all. So,
go on sale, they will be the price of a rack game.
yeah. Well, the other interesting thing is not all of the games in this series are available on every store. So some are only available on the NA store, some are only available on the Asian store or the Japanese store. So you really have to look around. You can't if you're interested in buying the 179 catalog, and I know there are people out there that have done that. You actually have to move between regions. Although that I noticed recently that more of them are coming to the NA stores now. So that's fantastic. Yeah. And look, they from a trophy hunting perspective, they vary from very easy. The first ones that came out all had 9 trophies, all bronze and I think a gold and a silver. Perhaps they could be done in up to like a minute or something. They were really just reading the menu screen, and not.
I was just looking at the Rygar and the Solomon's Key. That's
Mm,
another one I played. I was just looking at Solomon's Key and Rygar. You don't even have to play the game,
no, no,
like at all.
no, no. They were a big
The newer
fan.
ones, you have to get like a certain point total in the game.
That's right, and some of the new ones can be tougher to get that point total. I mean, they've gone from potentially being a minute to up to an hour, or some are. I know the puzzle ones in particular can be very, very time consuming as well, and some are very challenging. But I sort of went off this series when they started to get hard, but I came back with the Road Fighter. It's the latest release, mainly because it's a car game, and I do enjoy those, whatever. And it's just your old school sort of car dodging the traffic style game, and it is kind of fun. I've run into a hiccup in that I don't know how to refuel the car, so I can't get the point requirement yet. So that may require me to read the manual for the game to figure out how to do that. But anyway, at some point, so that's a bit of fun, and that is on the NA store. And then I think I may as well, because I keep mentioning it, and because we're both stuck on this journey at the moment, the Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And I understand you're going to be joining me soon in the season pass, Mindy. You're ready for the
I
DLC?
did the season pass went on. It's a $40 season pass, and I said, all right, I'll buy it when it goes on sale for about 20. And the US store right now has a like the summer sale going on, and the season pass went on sale for like $23. And I said, all right, I'll do that. Like I'll pay $23 for it.
That's a good price, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
You did say,
Well,
see,
it's a
I
lot of
remember you
content.
saying it was almost as long as the base game, but
Yes.
you take a really long time, so I don't know how
I
accurate that
still,
is.
I mean, you can report back to us next week when you finished it all, but I still
Right?
think it's I still think it's going to take, I can't see you doing each of the Legacy of Blade. There's 3 episodes there. I can't see you doing them in less than 4 hours, even if you were mainlining it. And so there's 12 hours there. And then the second, the Atlantis is definitely longer. So, and I'm talking about a mainline, doing the the optimal strategy path. So I think you're going to get plenty of time out of it. Yeah, I think so. I think that's a fair price, but you can let us know. It'll be interesting. I imagine you'll start with the legacy of the First Blade because you have finished the base game, basically, haven't you? You've done everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I talked to this the other week, listeners. I did quite like this. This, of course, happens on the main map, the base game map, with a separate storyline or whatever. I found the storyline a little bit more condensed, so it was a lot easier to follow. You do get a new cult. Lot of cult people to hunt as well, so there's a variation there, but it's not too excessive. I think one of the things I like, I suppose the advantage of waiting until all the DLC is out is that each of the Legacy of the First Blade episodes introduces sort of 6 or 7 new cultists, so it doesn't feel overwhelming like in the base game where there was a lot to.
Ooh, I wonder if that'll affect the base trophy, because I've done everything except the kill all cult members, and that's because I've kept one. Well, because I kept Assassin's Creed Odyssey as a milestone plaque because I knew I wouldn't get to Castlevania Requiem in time. So my last Assassin's Creed milestone plaque, I believe, was Origins. So I was like, I might as well. So I have one cult member left, and it's.
Is it the final one, or did you do the final one already? Like the one in the center?
No, it has to be the final
it has to
one.
be. Sorry,
you can't do the final one without killing all of the other ones.
Oh.
I'm hoping that since they add these new cult members in the DLC, I'm hoping that doesn't add, like in the Lego games, if you add on the DLC, those new characters and new mini kits and new gold bricks count towards the get all mini kits trophy, get all characters trophies. And it shouldn't.
I think you're going to be okay there because these new cultists appear on another screen in the menu, sort of thing. So I think they possibly are separate, but you can let us know. But I mean, even if they're not, you still need to hunt them all down for the DLC anyway. So you will be doing that. But I have a feeling they possibly are separate. More exciting is that you don't know who is the leader, which is a delightful twist. I obviously won't tell you at this point, but you're in for a delightful unveil there. Yeah. Oh, that's
all right.
That's exciting. Well, I found it delightful. We'll talk about that next time, perhaps. So, look, listeners. So this week I finished. I 100%ed. Wow, that is not a word I say very often. 100%. My goodness, look at me, completionist all over. I managed 100%. Did I drop that word yet? 100%. Yes. The legacy of the First Blade. I did have a little trouble with one trophy, so I'm just going to put this out there because it is not a spoiler in any way. The Fire on Water trophy, which it requires you to set 10 enemy ships on fire. So I would definitely recommend when you get to this point in the second episode just to start working on this just as you go. And it seems to be, I watched a few videos, it seems to be a bit of conjecture on how long the ship actually has to be burning. It's not just a case of suddenly it's a light and that actually seems to count. So you need to seem to get it really cooking, nicely on fire. And I even suspect you may need the ship to actually, to sink from fire or to get to that last stage from fire. So maybe you could whack it a bit first and then do that. But that trophy did take, for some reason, some time for me to get compared to everything. But that was the only one. And then I moved into the Fate of the Atlantis, which I really I'm really enjoying. I finished the first section. I won't talk about it because we don't want to spoil it, other than to say that the ending of the first section seamlessly transitions to episode 2. So, if there's any time to jump on this, it is now because obviously all the content is out. And it sort of plays with how a thing usually ends, I think, and starts. And then I also found a massive change in the obviously in the level design, but just the color use and the setting between the two. And so I thought that was it holds my interest, I think, a lot with these type of things. And, as we were chatting before with Mindy, we came up a few weeks ago and said that one of the things you were less a fan of was the big open world because, the parkour was sort of changing from, the inner city, Venice and Italy of the earlier games. And I think you'll like this second episode, Mindy, because it does become more linear.
Good. Well, my little bone of contention here is that I hear Fate of I'm a point and click girl, so I hear Fate of Atlantis, and I think one of the great LucasArts adventure games, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis.
Oh, yes.
AKA the game that was almost Indiana Jones 4, but then we got this thing about aliens and crystal skulls instead.
Oh, yes. Yeah, something happened there, didn't it? The Crystal Skull movie, I remember. Yeah. I think you'll enjoy this. Oh, I hope you do, but you can backtrack on it. It is enough of a change, listeners, that it's made me pause because I really did enjoy. And if you've played it, I'm sure you would agree. There is a big difference between the two, but we'll get into that in the future. One thing that I want to ask you, Mindy, which we haven't really talked about, and it's something that I'm sure is divisive in the assassins community or whatever. How do you feel about the immersion breaking returns to modern time or the reality, if you like, the future? Are you a fan of those still? Does that interest you? Or
You mean it's I liked them early on when it seemed like they had a purpose and it seemed like they'd actually more or less plotted
Hmm.
this out. So like the Desmond arc,
Yes, yeah.
but now it just feels like they're stalling. So and they're putting it in because it's expected now and not because it serves an actual
Hmm.
purpose.
Yeah, look, I agree. I know you've played them all, so I found that section they put into Syndicate. I quite liked it up until that point, and I found that was a really wild, wide swing of the bat to try and somehow get it in there. I think that game would have been way better without that. I can't remember if it was DLC or I think it was actually part of the base game that you had to do that section.
Oh, see, now that's interesting because I thought that put it a little more on track because this is the first time in a while, and it's because you didn't come on until late.
Yes.
But it was more progress with the storyline of those that came before
Hmm.
the group than we'd seen in several games. So I was like, "Oh, it feels like you're actually doing something with these people again." And then there hasn't really been a follow-up since that. So I can see why it's jarring now. But at the time when it first came out, I was like, "Oh, first of all, yeah, it was like a World War One level, I think.
That's correct. Yes.
That totally would have been DLC. So props, kudos to them for not making that DLC. But it was a chunk of like information on what this has to do with those that came before in the modern day, like why they're talking to Desmond and what's her name, Layla, in in modern times, like
Yes.
why they're passing these messages to the modern assassins, I guess.
Well, I think you'll enjoy the fate of Atlantis then, because there is a lot of this, back and forth of timelines and things. So, it really does more than any other part of this game for sure. So that's something to look out for. And I think like as I said, I've really only played the modern Assassin's Creeds, but my favorite DLC going into this was definitely also from Syndicate, the wonderful Jack the Ripper DLC, which I think is one of the best DLCs in any game that I've played. But I'm
That was a great one.
leaning now. It was a great one. I'm leaning now to even though I'm not a huge fan of the immersion breaking, but this Fate of Atlantis I think is special. I think, as I said, I'm only sort of halfway through the second episode, so I do look forward to seeing how that unwinds as we go. So, look, that's pretty much it. I will just give a quick shout out to the Smoots Summer Games. I tried this very briefly last night, but the controls were not in my favor. There may have been some influencing substances that didn't help along the way there for me, but I do intend to read the manual on that game next time, and I do look forward to playing that. But you're looking for a couple of days. I think we're similar. We're investing time in the quantity of hours to derive some sort of small amount of quality, perhaps, of enjoyment. We shall we shall see. So, look, neither of us need any more games, I'm sure. But just in case there was something that might interest us or the listeners, what have we got coming up, Mindy? Is there anything that piques your interest?
Well, there was something until I looked further into it.
Oh,
And I think maybe not so much anymore. But the game is called Robbie Swifthand and the Orb of Mysteries. So, Robbie Swifthand and the Orb of Mysteries is a 2D platformer with unique boss fights, accompanied by groovy and mystifying music. Plan your every move and
hmm,
outsmart
hmm.
traps that are lurking in the temple or get dissected in hilarious ways. Experience rage and satisfaction in this hardcore platformer. So that sounds like marketing speak, right? Then I looked more into this game, and yeah, it's kind of like Super Meat Boy meets Metroidvania elements. I think I might actually give it a pass.
Yes. I think I once knew a Robbie Swift hand. Delightful chap, delightful. Devilishly, Yeah, television. But look, hardcore platformer. I don't know. I think they should lead with that. It would save many of us a lot of time. But
I kind of like the backstory of this though, because it's got that kind of jive story of like, you need to save the world, and he's like, literally, I don't care. Am I getting paid?
yeah,
Like, I'll do it if I'm getting paid. Like, he's not sucked into it by fate or destiny. He's just like, I'll do it if you pay me.
yeah,
Like, that's
that's pretty cool.
surprisingly not a common thing to see.
I always get scared though when these indie sort of platformers like this, they do mention the word hardcore. They're probably not joking in any way. You're probably right. It's probably could be very Super Meat Boy like. It could be very, very.
Well, that, and you gotta wonder about the controls. You always have to wonder,
That's a
are the
good point.
controls going to be solid? I don't know.
Look, we'll see. We'll wait and see. On someone can let us know. I'm going to go with the Church in the Darkness. So the year is 1977. Your nephew Alex has. I just paused there for a second because I thought, hang on a second, was I alive then? But look, listeners, no. Barely, I was not. So anyway, the year is 1977. Could have been recall for me. Your nephew Alex has joined a religious cult and moved with them to the South American jungle. It's up to you to sneak into the commune, find out what's really going on, and decide if you need to get Alex out. So this is basically an extension of the Jonestown saga, I believe, Mindy. If you wanted to play that, yes. And I'm just looking at a
Yeah, it
picture.
really sounds like it. We're not in Guyana, but we might as well be.
Well, that's right. I'm just looking at a picture, and it seems like the character is wheeling in the barrels of Kool-Aid, in this scene. So, look, my tip is, listeners, if you're not familiar with this reference, do not drink it. That will probably not work out well for you. But look, it does look like an interesting game. Jokes aside, it's coming out on every platform on August 2nd. So it's there. It's there if it does interest you. It does claim that every time you play it, it will be different. So that character interactions and narrative threads, they must be quite diverse if that is truth. And look, it looks okay in an indie style. So that could be something of interest. If you feel like a cult simulator. Don't know. What do you think, Mindy? Are you up for a cult simulator yet? Or?
Well, it's not really a cult simulator, is it? Because you're not running the cult.
Well, I think you're investigating it.
You're like infiltrating it, and you're infiltrating and
That's
investigating
right.
it.
Yeah, but maybe you join as well. Maybe you're maybe it's like Sim Cult. Maybe SimCity. Maybe they really missed out on an opportunity here. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see. Now, is there something else there as well? What else?
Yeah, I'll throw out. This isn't actually on the drop, but it is supposed to come out in the next week or two. And I bring it up because it's an adventure game.
Lovely.
And it's called Bear With Me, Collector's Edition. Bear With Me is an episodic noir adventure game. Amber is trying to find her missing brother with the aid of her trusty friend, Ted E. Bear. Get it? Get it? Haunted by nightmares, Amber wakes up in the middle of the night only to find out that her brother Flint is missing. She seeks help from her buddy, Ted E. Bear, a retired grumpy old detective. The dynamic duo sets out to hunt for clues and interrogate witnesses and suspects, unaware of the tragedies that recently started happening to residents of Paper City. The plot thickens as the mysterious Red Man has been seen starting fires around town and looking for little Miss Amber.
It does sound interesting. I would give it that.
It sounds fun. From what I can tell, this game loves puns, which brings it very high up on my list. I love me some puns, and it looks like it's noir. It's like comedy noir. Like it's not actually like depressing noir. It's kind of a love letter, but
Yeah. I must admit, when you said Ted E. Bear, I flash back to this foul-mouthed teddy bear from the Fantastic Ted movie series. Could you imagine if that's what it was like?
Oh
just sitting
gosh,
there, smoking a bong and just
I would
dealing with its own
imagine.
feces.
I would
Fantastic.
imagine that was probably some inspiration here, because you think of the grizzled noir detective, and it's
Oh,
the only
yes.
thing you're really missing is the foul mouth, I think.
Now let's wait and see when it comes out, and it's a totally childhood-friendly game. Child-friendly game. We'll have to wait and see. That does look interesting. And look, listeners, we would have to mention, the big game for many people, or probably the biggest selling game, I suppose, for next week will be Madden NFL 20 that drops. If that interests you, more power to you. The one thing that I noticed that the drop description doesn't mention if the long shot mode is coming back, which was the Telltale-esque story mode that has been in 18 and 19. So I'm not sure on that. I hope so, because that actually was quite good. But I know, for the majority of people that play that game, that is definitely not the selling point. So, that is what it is. We also have Forager coming out, which is a clicker game. If you like those idle clicker games, you're all over that. Harvest Moon, Light of Hope special.
But could it be as fun as My Name is Mayo?
Well, I don't know. I never found the attraction myself to these clicker games, but I know they're very addictive. People do love them, so more power to them, I suppose. There's another Harvest Moon, Light of Hope Special Edition. Fantastic. There's 1,000 hours gone there. And Dowling's Invasion. So this is the second game in the series. I was going to say a few weeks, but let's be honest, it was probably a few months ago. The Dowling's game came out. They're fun games. They're sort of, I'm trying to think of, like the Brick Breaker type games, if you like. Well, basically exactly the same, but they have a few more special abilities, and there is a story, somewhat of a story woven in there as well. So, if you were left on a cliffhanger after the first game, you can now continue the story, because it continues right from where it left off, which is, look, that's a good spot to start, I think. Don't worry about a recap, just jump in there. So, yeah, there's plenty, Mindy, plenty. I mean, we should also mention, because it just came across my field of vision, the EA Access is now available on PS4. Are you familiar with this, Mindy?
That's their subscription streaming service, right?
That's right. It's now up. You can subscribe if you so wish. And I'm just looking down the list. I don't think there are many games that either of us would be interested in. All the sports titles. Oh, it has Battlefield there as well. I just see and Need for Speed Payback. But if these games interest you, this is probably quite a good deal, to be honest with you. It's got all the 19 versions of the sports games as well, so I'm sure you would save some money there. And apparently, Madden 20 and FIFA 20 will also at some point come to that. It doesn't have a date on those. So look, jump on that if that interests you, and you can let us know, I suppose. So look, tons of stuff there. Shall we shuffle across to something more in your wheelhouse, perhaps, than Madden, Mindy? A little bit of Leisure Suit Larry controversy. The cheeky devil, what's he been up to? What's happening now? What's he doing? Where is he?
Well, so and we talked about it on the podcast about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, something like that. Mm-hmm. Leisure Suit Larry, Wet Dreams Don't Dry came out on consoles. It's been out. It's worth mentioning that it's been out on PC for like 6 months, something like that. But it's ESRB rating. It's an M-rated game because, of course, it is. But my understanding is this all happened because they were putting the game up on Switch. And when it went up on Switch, I don't know how they missed it or someone reported it. I don't quite know how this happened, but there is a scene in the game, and it's not particularly hidden. There's a story, for story-related reasons, you go into this dark room, and the idea is that you have to find someone to Larry has to find someone to have sex with. And there are 2 different trophies depending on who you choose in the dark room, right? So if you're going for the platinum, you have to see this scene.
Yes.
And no matter which you choose, whether it's the 2 women or the guy in the room, Larry, being Larry, of course messes up, and he ends up getting together with this demon statue. Now, if you choose the women, it ends up with Larry, let me try and make this family friendly. Suckling, let's say.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The demon statue. Because the demon,
beautiful way around the push to plat after dark label. There.
Because the demon statue would be a girl in that scenario, but that doesn't seem to be the problem one. So the problem one is if you choose the guy, Larry performs fellatio on the male demon statue.
Oh, outrageous. Unbelievable.
So, and this, say what you will about Sony's, this, like I said, this seems to be because it was being put on the Switch. that this got flagged. Say what you will about Sony's questionable censorship policies lately. I kind of get why this one got censored. It's not implied. It's not like you see this demon statue in like the top of Larry's head. No, it is like center camera. It's in his mouth. It's not questionable. It's very obvious what's being done, and it's being done in a humorous way. Like, it's, you would not look at this and be like, "Oh my god, that's sexy." But I kind of get it. Like, it is sex in this game. It is a penetrative sex act in this game. But then, of course, you think of games like, isn't there a sex scene in Witcher 3? Like, kind of a graphic one before they kind of pull the camera out?
Yes.
So I don't know if it's a double standards thing or what, because Larry's a
Yes.
cartoon. But yeah. So anyway, the news is somehow that was flagged, and so the all versions of the game have been patched. At least all console versions. I don't think this has affected the PC because that's not strictly under ESRB regulation. I don't think.
So this might be a case where you have to sort out the physical version, if such a thing exists.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I might have to make some calls because it did come out on disc in England.
Well, look, you shouldn't have a problem there. That country's about ready to fall into civil anarchy, so there's a great chance that you could source a copy, hopefully before they close themselves off completely there to the rest of the world. But yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. And I suppose, look, I suppose if it crosses the line, it crosses the line. It's just it is what it is. It reeks of the South Park affair, doesn't it? That we had here in Australia. Censoring the
at least that censorship was funny. Like, yeah, it was censorship, absolutely. Yes. But it was, they stuck in some extra screens and made a joke out of it.
That's right.
With the what was it, the crying koala bear?
That's right, with the infamous anal probe scene, I believe. But I think also there were two, weren't there? Because also the abortion clinic later on, there was a scene in there as well that was also censored. Yeah. But look, It is what it is. So listeners, be aware of that if you if you're playing, if that does interest you. And then look, the other point of news I thought we'd bring up. This is very Australian focused, so Mindy will just have to tolerate it here because I understand you have not played any of these Hand of Fate games. Is that correct?
No, I have not.
Yeah, so look, I won't bag on for too long. This is a bit of a sad day for indie studios in Australia. We don't have very many indie studios here. It's obviously difficult to survive anywhere in the world, but it is a shame that it has happened here. And it's the Defiant developers or development team. So they're most known for their Hand of Fate and Hand of Fate 2, which if you're not familiar with these games, they are like a deck building card strategy hack and slash adventure game. And if you're thinking, wow, what did they miss out? VN point and click, that wrap that in and it's everything. But how it sort of works is, if you like, it does play like a card game overall. You move on a board. There is some random chance and gambling elements with dice and things like this. There is some sort of dialogue choices in the adventure style, and then there is a combat that you can enter where you're sort of transported off the board into an enclosed area and you participate in some sort of hack and slash and dodging combat as well. And look, it is a really good game. I will admit that the first one, Hand of Fate, the difficulty scaling, it was not balanced in the game to the point where trying to finish it was incredibly challenging. You really had to have studied the game quite a lot, I think, and really invested some time and effort to do it. But the Hand of Fate 2 was a big improvement on this. They broke it up into sort of 18 to 20 sort of story, campaigns, if you like. And a campaign would last, anywhere from sort of 20 minutes to an hour, depending on the complexity of it. And of course, it's something you could replay because obviously your deck changes. You pick up cards as you go, and you might change what you include in your hand, which would change the outcome to a degree of the story. And so, look, I'm not going to lie. The game had definitely had some issues. It did take some very long, loading times between sort of sections or whatever else that was magnified, fortunately, on the Switch and I believe on the Xbox as well. But if you can put that aside, there isn't many games in this genre, and while it's perhaps too late now to help them out, I imagine there will be deep sales on this game in the future, because they've said that they will stand by their work, whatever that sort of means, I suppose, for them now. It could be worth a chance. And of course, there are no online elements in those games, so if you did pick them up, you wouldn't have to worry about servers closing or anything. But look, it's the way of the world. These things come and go. They've been there for 9 years, so my best wishes to anyone that works in that industry in sourcing another job in Australia in whatever area and endeavour that they can move on to. But not to bring us down here into a negative sort of mood, but it's good to put out the other side of the coin as well. That's why we must support games that we like. If you do enjoy the game, then buy it, and buy it early, because unfortunately sometimes if you wait too long for a deep sale, the developer will no longer be there to accept your money. It is what it is. So, in a more positive tone, why don't we throw across to Afraid of the Folly now for Folly's Corner, where he's going to enlighten us a little bit about this game that he has been playing this week. So over to you, Folly.
Hey everyone, Afraid of the Folly back with another edition of Folly's Corner. Now, the Tuesday stream didn't happen this week as I needed a night off, but Sunday on stream we finished up a playthrough of Crossing Souls, so I wanted to offer up a little review of this game that you might have missed first time around. So what is Crossing Souls? Well, it's probably best described as an action-adventure game set in small-town America in the 1980s. Now, if the movies have taught us anything, it's that government conspiracies and world-ending ancient evil love small-town America, and if you're a kid who spends their time playing in the woods and riding your bike, you better believe you're going to have to deal with some pretty messed up stuff before you've even hit puberty. This game was released back in February last year, developed by 4-Attic Games and published by Devolver Digital. Now, the fact Devolver published this game should be a big hint that it's going to be something good. Whenever I see their name attached to anything, I know I'm in for a good time. But that's enough about the people who got the game out there. What about the game itself? Well, first the music. As with most modern media set in the 80s, the music plays a huge part in really getting the feel for the era and transporting you to the time of big hair and poor fashion choices that we all love. In this department, the game delivers. The music was composed by a guy called Timecop 1983, and he nails it 100%. It is pure synthwave goodness. If you played me the music without telling me anything else, I would be certain that this game was going to be set in the 80s. I've been listening to Timecop 1983 non-stop since finishing this game. Of course, the music wouldn't be enough on its own, but when it's coupled with a beautiful pixel art style that evokes memories of classic 80s era arcade games, stylistically, this game knows exactly what it wants to be and executes it perfectly. Gameplay-wise, the controls are tight, combat and dodging feels responsive, and the platforming never feels sloppy or slow. I would say that there is a bit of an imbalance with how much you use each of the 5 playable characters. Each have their own ability, but the levels seem designed to only really utilise 1 or 2 of these characters maximum, and most of the time I just stuck with the main character unless forced to do so. There are also some additional flying and biking areas that break up the platforming and combat sections nicely. The one downside is that the game does come to a bit of a halt at the start of the third act. There are a couple of questionable puzzle choices that really slow things down, but thankfully it's short-lived and resumes a nice pace in the lead up to the final boss. Now the story. Well, there's a reason I've saved this until last. This game has all the tropes of 80s movies, but without feeling worn out or rehashed. It follows 5 friends as they discover an ancient power, which of course a very big, very bad man wants to get his hands on. Things escalate as they oh so frequently do, and soon they are forced to save not only each other but also the world. I won't say too much because honestly, I haven't enjoyed a video game story this much in a while. I was rooting for these characters throughout and was totally invested in their stories and relationship right until the very end. But let's face it, music, graphics, gameplay and story are all well and good, but we all know there's a 5th category needed on this podcast, and that may be even the most important for some of you, and that's the trophies. This game is easy, make no mistake. It's not completely without challenge. There were a couple of bosses that managed to make me see the game over screen, but nothing that couldn't be beaten in 3 or 4 tries. The only frustrating part about this trophy is the amount of missables in the game. There's no chapter select, and you never really backtrack through any areas to allow you to get what you might have missed. In total, there are 5 different types of collectibles in the game, and I'm pretty sure most are missable. On top of that, there are also trophies for certain situations in the game that can be missed, forcing you, at least partially, to complete a second playthrough. My first playthrough took me about 10 to 11 hours, and I only got 43% of the trophies, so I'm going to have a second try to pick up some of the ones that I missed. Thankfully, there's a guide over on PSN Profiles by Zizzy Monster to help you with those missables. I just wanted to experience the game blind first time as I was streaming it, and I didn't want anything spoilt for me. I would think now that I know the game and can skip dialogue, a second playthrough wouldn't take more than 5 to 6 hours. So, in conclusion, if you couldn't tell, I'm a big fan of Crossing Souls. If you missed this game first time around, I would 100% say give it a go. It's a great platinum with a great story, and you can't want much more than that really. Just watch out for those missables. But that does now mean I'm without a new game to stream, so this coming Sunday I'm going to be starting 1980X, which CJ mentioned the other week. This means I won't be on the podcast next week, as I won't really have a lot to talk about. But while I'm away, why don't you leave some comments below with some suggestions of some new indie games that you'd like to see on stream? Maybe something you've enjoyed recently, or something that you would like a second opinion on before you buy. Some of the highlights from July include Sea of Solitude, Ghost 1.0, or maybe even Egalos. Leave your suggestions below the line and we'll select one to play for the following week. Head over to www.twitch.tv/AfraidOfTheFolly. Hit follow and enable notifications so you don't miss out. Now back to CJ and Mindy for the rest of the podcast.
Thank you for that, Folly. I've actually had Crossing Souls on my backlog list for a long time. So after that little review, I think perhaps it's time for me to take a second look at that game as well. And look, I think you're really going to enjoy 1980X coming up. What a fantastic game. If a little bit tricky, perhaps, on some of the trophies, if you intend to go for the platinum. So listeners, as Folly said, if you'd like to reach out to us and suggest a game for him to play in the coming weeks, please feel free to do so. You can contact him directly on his Twitter, Twitch, or you can leave it on our Twitter if you prefer at push2plat. Push the number 2plat. So as we referenced at the start of the episode, listeners, we had a little bit of trouble with the audio track from our guest this week, Mr. Snatch 2497. It was a fantastic conversation and a very interesting topic, but unfortunately we're going to have to do a little work on the audio just to clean it up. So we're looking forward to dropping that into an episode in the coming weeks. So instead of leaving you a little bit short today, I thought what we might do is have a look at the current winter/summer sale that's going on the PSN store. So I'm going to focus today, listeners, on the EU side on the winter sale. I know many of these games are also in the NA sale. What we might try and do next week or in the coming weeks is get Mindy to take a look at the NA sale and we can compare them. So just be aware today that I'm talking mainly games in the EU sale, but they do carry across, I know, to both regions. So we haven't given a lot of love to the VR in a few weeks, so why don't we start with some VR titles? And what I thought we'd do, listeners, is I'll throw out some of the ones that I've quite enjoyed that have quite a deep sale. On some of them I'll also make a comment. I know a few weeks, probably a few months ago actually, time does fly, we did a bit of a deep dive into how to earn a trophy level, playing some sort of more enjoyable games than your typical spam games. So if you're sort of looking for maybe, a little bit different, a little bit more depth than just your 30-minute spam plat, and boy, trust me, I know there's nothing wrong with those. I do enjoy them myself. Then perhaps today, listeners, we can just find a little something here for you. So, starting with VR, the first one, and if you have VR, you've probably heard of this already, the Astrobot Rescue Mission. It's currently 54% off on the EU store in the sale. That's a pretty deep sale for a game that really isn't that old. It comes in at around 12 to 15 hours, no missables, and of course it's a platformer. So the Astrobots appeared in the Playroom VR. This is a bit of an extension, if you like, their own standalone game. And look, it's really fun. The tracking in this game is fantastic. Yes, the platforming starts off fairly basic and only ever moves to moderate, but I think it's an enjoyable time. So I'm not going to talk more on that one, but it could be worth a look for you. The one I will start with a little deeper on is Box VR. So you might have heard me talk about this game a month or two ago. This, at the time of launch, was kind of expensive for a sort of exercise experience, if you like. So it's now on sale at 44%, and I think this is a pretty decent price to now have a look into this game. So it does have a plat. You're probably looking at the shortest, a couple of days, because it does have a 24-hour trophy, burning the 1,000 calories in 24 hours. But of course, it's not a continuous 24 hours. Now, I will give you a bit of a tip here, listeners. If you're suffering or you just physically don't want to do that much moving, and look, it will take a few hours to acquire that trophy in 24 hours, you can actually spin the move controllers in your hand in sort of like loops and circles as you do the punching, and that will drastically increase the calorie count, almost sort of to a factor of 10. So if you had enough of grinding, isn't that dreadful, listeners? What a dreadful tip. If you've had enough of grinding that trophy and you're just trying to push it along, that could be the thing to do. Fast circular motions with the wrists. Who wasn't good at that. And that will cut your time down in that. Now, of course, that is not a super easy plat, though, although I don't think it's that challenging, to be honest with you. The trophies you will have to watch out for in this one are the Class Pro and Class Master. That's to complete 10 different classes with 90% or more accuracy, and then to complete 20 different classes with 90% or more accuracy. These are definitely the hardest two. Perhaps depending on how your tracking goes in this game, you may also have some troubles with hitting Qs in 5 different classes and Qs in 10 different, every Q in 10 different classes. But if you're passing with 90% accuracy or more, you're probably going to, get very close to the 10 out of the 20 that you need for that trophy. So my tip here would be that there are 3 beginner missions, if you like, or workouts that come in at 3 minutes, but there are only 3, and then it progressively increases to 6, 8, 9, 12, and longer. You will be looking at some longer ones. So this is a trophy that I probably wouldn't set out for, but you'll naturally sort of get with some work towards the end. Look, as I've said before, the game is incredibly fun. If you're using it as a fitness tool, it will definitely build up a sweat. There's no motion sickness this one because it is very stable, and at a 44% discount, this is probably the time to make a move on it. Now, if you do like boxing games, Creed Rise to Glory is also at 42%. So this is more of an arcadey boxing simulator. Now, I will be honest, the tracking in this game can be a little bit hit or miss. As a result, it can be difficult to beat the legendary fights in this game. Again, with a little bit of patience, it is doable. There are a few different strategies online that you could check out if that game did interest you, but again, quite fun. There is one online multiplayer trophy, so you will either need to, locally boost that if you have to VR, or find someone else that does. So just be aware of that. So then let's have a look. Another game that I think has flew under the radar, Electronauts. This is currently on sale for 53%. This is a steal at this price. Now, this game is a double stack NAEU store, and it can be done in as short as 1 hour. Now, I believe there is no reliable trophy guide for this, but there are plenty of tips out there. So basically what this is a music mixing / DJ simulator, if you like. It's very user-friendly. It doesn't bog down in all the sort of mixing things if you're thinking that programs and audio files and all this. It basically uses shapes that you drop in and out of different synth sounds, loops, all this sort of layering and texturing and stuff like this to earn the trophies. 90% of the trophies will come very, very easily. You do need to play the majority of the songs, but again, that does not take very long, as you can tell if it takes an hour. What I'd suggest if you're doing this one, could be a good one to double stack. A few hours on the first stack, then you'll learn what you're doing and into the second stack very quickly. So the hardest trophy you'll probably find in Electronauts is the static trophy, which requires you to play only the synth ball for 4 full loops. So not every track has a synth ball. You'll find it common in the latter tracks. A couple of the final tracks have one. So 4 full loops, if you like, or 4 sets of 4 bars. Basically what you want to do is use the move controller just to loop around the top of the synth ball and then slowly move down the synth ball till you get to the bottom. This should take around 2 full loops. If you do it then coming back up, that should give you the 4 full loops. Look, it's really not that difficult, and I'm sure listeners, you will figure it out as you go along. So then next, Mind Labyrinth VR Dreams. Another game that I think definitely flew under the radar, and another steal, coming in at a deep 48% off on the EU store. Well, what is Mind Labyrinth VR Dreams, you may ask? Well, let me tell you, it's a 1 hour platinum. It's extremely relaxing. It's basically a walking simulator that features a variety of stages, around 10 in total, that will take you around 5 minutes. Now, there is a little bit of randomness in this game in where the balls that you need to go to move the level forward, where they spawn sometimes. So, look, the levels are very small and self-contained. You will find them if you just wander around naturally. None of the trophies are missable. There are guides available if you need it. It is a single stack and it has some beautiful music. There's no motion sickness in this game. It is a very straightforward walking sim experience. So then a couple of others that I saw quite well known, Rick and Morty Virtual Rick-ality, coming in at 55% discount. This game doesn't often go on discount, it's not that old. Again, beware, the tracking in this game can lead to some frustrations in earning trophies. So worth checking out a guide for that one. But if you like that humour, it is fantastic. Of course, if you're happy to spend maybe just a little bit more and go for the Trover Saves the Universe in a stimulus humour style, I think that could be a good tip. But, maybe wait for a sale on that one if you like. An early VR title to consider, if you've never played it, is Robinson the Journey, coming in at 73% off in this deep sale. Another very good price. Now, this is a beautiful game, but I will put a preface in this game. If you do suffer from motion sickness, this is a game to tread very carefully with. There is some climbing elements in ladders in this game that make it, well, they make you need the bucket, trust me. It can be very uncomfortable, which is a shame because it does mar an otherwise beautiful sort of collectathon game, if you like. Something to check out, and be wary of that. So then, 2 more games I found that may interest you. The first one here, Transference. So this is a 100% game that, again, very rarely comes on sale, but at the moment coming in at a deep 52% off. Transference can be completed with a guide in around 30 minutes if you want to race through the experience. There are missable trophies related to the collectibles. They're fairly well hidden, so you will probably need it. But look, if you're going to play without a guide first, and I do recommend it, it is an interesting puzzle game experiment, I suppose is the best way to put it, then you're probably looking at a couple of hours maximum and then, a very short cleanup. And as I said, that game rarely comes on sale, so at that price, it's worth a look. The next game, The Exorcist Legion VR. Now, this is a game that also, I think, has flown under the radar. It is only a 100% game, but it is a full list because each episode had its own trophy. So it does add up to almost 1,200 points, or the equivalent of a platinum anyway. So this game can also be raced through in a couple of hours if you wish. But again, I would recommend playing the episodes just naturally, and then you can come back and clean up. In that regard, all episodes are replayable, so there are no missable trophies. Each episode, you're looking at around sort of 10 minutes if you know what you're doing, maybe 20 minutes to 30 if you're just sort of getting a feel for it. They're very linear, and it's pretty clear what you're doing. But some of the trophies, you may need a little bit of cleanup with. They're not always the most obvious on initial playthrough. It's very much an atmospheric horror, as you would expect from The Exorcist. Look, the music is creepy, it's dark, it's fantastic. Perhaps perhaps a light frustration of this game is the tracking. So it can take a while to get the tracking set up. It is worth setting up because you do switch between numerous tools throughout the game. It also has a really funny thing that if you quit out and then reload back in straight away, it will affect the tracking. So the tracking is fairly easy to fix. You end up back in the central sort of, academy office, if you like, and you line it up each time that you want to do it. But it is worth the time investment in getting that one going because it's worth playing. So taking a look at the trophies with The Exorcist, and the interesting thing, as we mentioned, is that the trophies are broken up into the episode, but there are a core 6 trophies that you can sort of earn any time. The majority of those 6 trophies can be earned. In fact, 4 of the 6 can be earned on loading up the game, ordering the coffee, feeding the plant your coffee right at the start, finding the photo of your favorite pet, and the tricky hidden collectible, the pea soup. Hint, hint, look at the back of the filing cabinet in the evidence room. Oh, spoiler. So the other 2 will come naturally as you play the first 2 episodes. The rest of the other trophies, as we said, with a guide, very easy to mop up. One of the trophies perhaps to watch out for in episode 2 is High Five, to avoid the grasp of the demon hands. It's very unlikely you'll get this in your first playthrough unless you've watched a video of it. It can also be a little finicky with the tracking here. So that could be the only trophy that gives you potential troubles. In Chapter 5, it does require 2 playthroughs, but only a short playthrough the second time. So look, all up, as I said, you can race through that in a couple of hours if you really want to, or, enjoy the experience. On a scale of sort of 1 to 10 with horror, I'd put it fairly up there at an 8. I think for VR horror, this is definitely worth checking out. And the last VR game, look, we're giving the VR tons of love. today is an older game, A Room Where Art Conceals. So this game only available on the Hong Kong store, and it's more of an educational experience. It is a 100% game that can be done in roughly an hour, maybe a little bit more. And what it does is it sees you moving through the famous Impressionist paintings. It's a really beautiful experience. Look, it is fairly passive. There's a couple of things that you do in their rooms, but by and large, it's a passive experience. If you've played the Museum, VR, the British Museum game, or A Night in the Forum, you know what to expect with these games. An easy completion that you'll enjoy and perhaps learn something as well. So listeners, I'm sure if you have a PSVR, you can find something there. Have you found something that I don't know about? Well, please reach out and let me know. I love to buy VR games. Occasionally, I even play them as well. So, if there's any money left in the wallet, why don't we now look at the PS4? A reminder, we are on the EU store and the EU sale. So the first one I'm going to throw out is A Way Out. It's currently at 35% off. So the little disclaimer on this one, it would be cheaper perhaps to look at EA Access for a month to play this game, as this game is listed. Now this is a co-op game, and look, it is fantastic co-op game. It's a very easy, straightforward, sort of 6 to 8 hour experience. Yeah, nothing is missable because you can go back and mop it up. It's a unique game, I suppose, and I would recommend playing it with a friend or with a new friend and building a friendship in the game. This game does not require you to finish the platinum. In fact, you can get it about 20 minutes before the end if you get everything along the way, but it has a fun little mechanic at the end, so I would recommend playing through it. Be aware that this game was one of the ones that came with a buddy pass, so if you're using that option, your buddy will not get the trophies. They will have to have a version of the game themselves, but you can play it through and then they can come back later with the full version and clean it up if you wish. Or as I said, it is listed on EA Access. So then we turn to Bubsy, Paws on Fire. Now, Mindy likes to remind me that she's had, mixed experiences with Bubsy in the past. Cruel experiences, I think. But I'm here to tell you that Bubsy Paws on Fire is a fun, look, and fairly easy to mid experience if you like. Now again, a game that hasn't come on sale much because it's really not that old. It's currently at 39% off. You're looking at 8 to 10 hours for the platinum. Now this game could be very challenging if you're required to pick up all the collectibles, but you only need to pick up the 3 core collectibles per level. Most of them are pretty simple. A couple might take a few runs. The checkpointing is very generous overall. Easy, fun, platforming platinum. There we go. That was a mouthful. And beautiful as well. So another one that I would recommend. Obviously, we have to throw out Hellblade. Again, it doesn't come on sale very often. At a 60% discount, it's something to have a look for. It's a fantastic game. I'm sure I don't need to tell you about it. If the NA stack ever comes on sale, please tell me. That seems to be almost impossible. So next up we have Hidden Agenda. So one of the party games, it's 40% off at the moment. This game can be done again in a few, sort of 5 to 6 hours, I would say. It does require 2 playthroughs as a minimum, and one of them will require extra devices like a phone or tablet as well. It can be done with one person, of course, or you can play it with multiple people locally. It's a great experience. You probably won't get the platinum naturally without a guide, but again, I recommend one playthrough and then coming back and cleaning up, even if it costs you the extra playthrough for the hour or 2 is worth it. If you like this style of games, of course, you could move across to the Japanese store and pick up the recent release, or new stack, I should say, of A Late Shift, one of the better FMV novels. Again, this can be done in a couple of hours with a guide and manipulating the ending, or 6 to 8 hours legitimate. There is also a great trick you can use by quitting out at the end to save you having to play it all the times again if you want. There is minimal variation, so that will really, between the endings, so it really will be up to you. But look, if you haven't played it, that's a double stack for you waiting, and it's well worthy of your time. So a couple more that I particularly like, but not necessarily the easiest platinums, are My Time at Porsche, a 37% discount. So this is only a newer game. Look, if you like fetch quests, this is the game for you. Has very light building elements. It's a beautiful sort of isometrically top-down style game, but in a cartoony arcade style as well. Look, it's not an easy plat, nor is it a short plat, but if you're looking just for some game experience, that could be a good one to pick up. In that line, a couple of other interesting ones that caught my eye, Shenmue 1 and 2 at 50% off. Soul Calibur 6 at 60% off, which is a pretty good price for that game, again considering it's new. Soul Calibur 6 has a ton of content. It does have some online trophies. Some of the trophies are a little tricky in the single player, and it is long, but look, I think it's well worth it. The story mode, look, I've heard mixed things. I enjoyed it myself. It's mainly reading a story with fights dropped in through it, but look, tons of content if that does interest you. So then for the JRPG fan, again, we don't see often on sale, the Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet Complete Edition at 36% off. That is the newest installment, I believe, of the Sword Art Online. But if you wanted to go back to the Hollow Realization, that is at a whopping 76% off with this season pass. So, can I find anything else for you listeners? Surely you have nothing left. Well, how about the Crew 2 Gold Edition? Look, don't get me started on this game. It is a major disappointment compared to the Crew, but having said that, it is still worth it to play, and at 72% off, now is definitely the time to play it. Look, it has had a lot of new content dropped in since launch, none of which is required for the Platinum. Again, it's not a quick Platinum. You're possibly looking at 30 to 40 hours. One of the trophies, maxing the ranking level, will take quite some time. I suggest you find your favorite event and lock in for the grind at some point. The game can be played with other people in your party, and everyone will share the trophies regardless of the finishing positions. So look, it's a great co-op game. Alternatively, it can be played in single player. As a warning for that game, it has some of the most aggressive rubber banding I have ever seen in a racing game, so just keep that in mind. There will be frustrations. You will never end up that far ahead at the finish, despite how well you do drive. But if you can handle that, then look, it is a fun game. It has somewhat of a story overlay, and again, it looks beautiful, so what more could we want? So listeners, we're almost there, but I would be remiss of me not to drop in a point-and-click adventure. So Trouberbrook at 30% off. That's a pretty decent price, again, considering it's a new game, and it has been fully guided. Look, I haven't actually played it in my defense yet. It is on my system. I've played it about 5 or 10 minutes. It looks beautiful. I understand there is a lot of missables in that game, so definitely go for it. And if you're looking for an older game, perhaps Toren is for you. At 74% off, coming in at only a few dollars, this is a lovely little 100% that'll take you a couple of hours. Again, fully guided. Look, it's a platformer, I suppose. But look, it's very easy. It's got some beautiful art in it. And it's just a lovely little, easy, relaxed story. So just before we hit the spam of the week, listeners, I thought I'd drop in a couple of games that I just discovered over the last few days. Now, I know I've talked a little about the Smoots Summer Games already, but I thought seeing we're, giving you a few trophy tips today, we don't always have time for that with guests and topics as such. I thought I'd drop in a little insight into this game because, again, I see it's not shifting that fast at the moment, despite its relatively low price. So look, it's an arcadey Finger Olympics game if ever one did exist. All the bronze trophies for winning events are fairly straightforward, and they'll be done through the natural sort of campaign, I suppose, if you wish, the 3 separate style of competitions that you have to do. The winning events can only be done in those 3 competitions, obviously, not in the practice or in the challenge mode that you have to complete. So after you've done that, you'll then move on to the challenge mode. There is a bronze, a silver, and a gold. So this plays like a playlist of the events, if you like, 5, 8, and I think 12. So it builds up as you go. It has a distance or a time that you have to beat. If you don't beat that time, the playlist ends there. If you didn't complete the playlist, you would have to restart. Now, there is a practice mode so you can practice the game. The game overall is fairly easy. It even tells you often the angles for launching the javelin or the shot put or in the high jump or long jump. The angle seems to be 45%. From personal experience, I found that a little bit lower than that can actually work for a longer distance most of the time, around the 35%. Where this game gets a little bit challenging is setting the world records, particularly in the swimming. It's a slightly different mechanic of basically waddling, I suppose, the sticks. So I found a little bit of a trick here. It says that you need to use the left and right stick, but really it doesn't seem to make any difference. If you just use the left stick as fast as you can, perhaps with 2 hands sort of oscillating between, it will actually achieve the same result. Having said that, the times are a little bit tight, so you could find a little bit of a challenge in the hardest trophies in this game, the Gold Special Challenge playlist, the Swimming Butterfly World Record, the Swimming Breaststroke, Backstroke, and Swimming Crawl. But look, with a little practice, you'll get it. Now, it wouldn't be pushed to plat without some sort of dirty little tip. If you own a turbo controller, this game will be reduced to, well, child's play, really. Basically, you can turbo control every event to rapid fire the X for you, which means you will be winning the races by a long way. You will be throwing the javelin out of the stadium. You will hit someone in the audience in the head with the shot put. It will be unbelievable how far you can throw these things. Unfortunately, the turbo controller will not help you in the swimming events. Something to consider. All in all, though, look, it's a fun experience if you like a Finger Olympics style game. So, why don't we stay with the Olympics just briefly? A new release last week, only on the Hong Kong and Japanese store, is Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. Obviously, the namesake game for the upcoming Olympics in Tokyo next year. Little warning, the Japanese version on the Japanese store is in Japanese. On the Hong Kong store, however, we have the Korean, English, and Chinese version. So this is the one you want. Look, it's not a particularly cheap game. I believe coming in at around 80 Australian dollars, 70 to $80. But look, it is incredibly fun. It's obviously a little bit easier, I would say, than the Smoots game. Probably around a 6 to 8 hour platinum, so potentially a little bit longer though. It does have some online trophies that may cause you a little pause for concern, I suppose. These are mainly playing the medleys online or setting the world records online. Now, don't panic if you haven't got this game day one. You're at no disadvantage here at all, listeners. They are preset times, so you're not competing against other real players from around the world, which of course could make this platinum incredibly challenging. The preset times are very easy, and they're trophies that you will naturally get. The rest we'll get from playing the events, and look, there are a lot of events included. So in a way, this is a much more fleshed out game, if you like, and look, quite an impressive effort, I think, from developer Sega on this one. So a couple of sporting titles there for you as well. So look, listeners, that is a ton of stuff there. I'm looking forward to, hopefully I can twist Mindy's arm into going through in a similar way to the NA sale and see if we can find any differences. But look, if that wasn't enough for you, well, I suppose we could say there was a little bit more quality perhaps than you used to from me. If that wasn't enough for you though, how about we have a look at the spam now, Mindy, and can you find anything for this week?
Well, let's see. Let's see. We have Woodle Tree Adventures. This is a 100% game. It looks like you do have to beat the game, but I would be surprised for more than 4 levels in this game. It very much looks like the Crocs World lists. Considering it says the trophies are complete the first level, unlock the yellow leaf, the orange leaf, and the white leaf. I'm thinking that's 4 levels. And just collect a number of berries, i.e. coins. I feel like this would not take very long, so let's call it spam.
Unlike the Croc World game, though, these people have managed to organise their trophies in the right order. You'll remember the infamous complete the first world or first level in Croc's World into a gold trophy, and then completing the game only into a bronze. So
that is correct.
These people have learnt from that. But look, they're dealing with the Woodle tree, so of course they have. They're on touch with it. We'll throw out Hoggy too, because as I said earlier, you can never get enough Hoggy in your life, and there will be.
I think I might play that tonight, actually.
Yeah, look after.
And I looked at a trailer. It kind of looks like Kirby meets Mario almost.
Yes. Yeah.
Like with some puzzling in it.
Yeah, well, I know you're more familiar with Kirby and Mario, but there is a core set of hardcore fans that have always stood by Hoggy, and I'm glad that you get to experience it now on a modern gen console, PS4 enhanced and ready to go. So there will be 6 stacks
Thanks,
of that.
Leica.
Thank you. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, 6 stacks, and the Asian stack will obviously most likely be out the following week. I think it drops in the middle of the week. What else have we got here for the listeners?
There's a new Picross game, Block-a-Pix Deluxe. Actually, these might just be new stacks. I think they're just new Asian stacks.
These are still pretty long though. These games, aren't they? Like it's not. You're not doing this in an hour. This game, are you?
No, you're not. Even if you have the solution, you a little while, couple hours.
Yeah, but they're games you don't need the solutions for, aren't they? You can
No, I mean the whole point is to figure it out, but yeah.
Yeah. No, look. I agree with you. Look, should we throw out Wolfenstein Youngblood, seeing there is no ultra difficulty trophy? What do you think? Again, as a little sidebar, listeners. So this one, it comes with a buddy pass. So potentially, depending on how good your buddy is, maybe this does become spam for you if you can hide in the corner. I don't know, but that would be what would be very interesting to find out is whether the person on the buddy pass gets the trophies as well, because of course the Way Out, which followed a similar method, they did not get the trophies until they bought the game. So I don't know how that works, but I'm sure we will find out. Can we see anything else?
I don't think so. I think everything else I'm looking at we talked about last week with Corn, right? Like Tower of Beatrice.
Yeah. That's right. That has not come yet, but maybe by the time you're listening, that will be there. Yeah, that's true. I think. Oh, the only other one I discovered was the E. Oh, listeners, why did they do this? No. I'm still here. I'm just choosing which pronunciation I'm going to go with this time. It feels like deja vu. And
feels like deja vu.
It feels like that, doesn't it? Oh, sorry. The name Ella. I'm going to go with Ella. ELEA.
No, I made a joke.
Oh, sorry. I was literally stalling on this. Look at that, 4 letters. Ella game. So this is a game that's been out on the Xbox for over a year. There are video guides. The video guide comes in at about 2 hours or so, I believe. There are, I think, 4 missable to highly missable trophies. So if you're going to do this in one run, you would want to check that out, or if it's a second playthrough, or whatever else, then you could check it out then. It's a science fiction style game. Apparently the writing in the game is quite good. Nothing else particularly is. So, be warned, listeners, and treat it as such and as you wish. And we were saying before that we were enjoying the trophy names and descriptions, I believe, in this game, Mindy. We had some fun ones in there.
We did, and I should have pulled this up so I could jump on really quickly.
Oh, sorry. No, that's okay.
Yeah, because this is the one, where I'm not entirely sure that English is their first language.
Yes,
because they have such great trophy descriptions as "Thank you for moon moving."
That's right. Yes. And they had my personal favorite, which is A Life Full of Glitches, and that's for completing the A Life Full of Promises chapter, which I think is great. So,
how about get out of the labyrinth for under 15 seconds? So I guess that means play the stage for less than 15 seconds, and you'll without actually exiting it, and you will win, I guess.
It's always a good sign for a spam title when there's a trophy that requires you to do something in under 15 seconds, isn't it?
Right.
That's how I mean,
what was the other one? Difficult. Oh, there was one that was just unnecessary. Quotation marks, which is a huge pet peeve of mine, which is, "You truly are the master of the quote blue quote screen of death."
I like that one too. Yeah, that is.
What was that game we talked about a couple of weeks ago? And I said I didn't understand the game's name because it sounded like they didn't understand how to. Did that game come out yet? It was like Search for Quest.
Oh, it was in the wording. You mean? Yeah, I'm not sure. The problem, listeners, I'm sure this doesn't happen to you, but the spam is flowing so freely these days that it all starts to merge together, doesn't it, in one's mind? So,
which you'd think spam would not be a flowing.
Well, I don't know. The one thing that I am enjoying, listeners, is the rise of the word spam. Now, I don't remember this word being used, hugely in trophies, except for the last couple of years, and now I hear it a lot, and it makes me smile. I think there's a new genre. I mean, I don't know. I think it's established enough that we can now call it its own genre, the genre of spam. How do you feel about that, Mindy?
I don't know if that's an accomplishment or not.
Well, it's just a thing. I mean, it's just validating the spam hunter, I think, which is the evolution of the genre of spam. People will be happy to stand up and leave their house and identify as spam hunters in the future. And I think that's a wonderful world that we live in. And it's being brought forward by games such as the masterful Hoggy 2, Waddle Tree Adventures. So what a time we live in, listeners. What a time. I think, is that enough games? That's a lot.
That is a lot, yeah.
It is a lot. I mean, the last few weeks have been insane. You could have probably earned 50 plats easily in 4 games across multiple stacks in the last few weeks, as we all would have while we were mowing the lawn or eating the. Now, we didn't discuss this. Is it a fruit, or what type of food is this? This mochi? Did I say it wrong again?
Oh, from Mochi Mochi Boy?
Mochi, yes.
So mochi it's Japanese. It's like a rice cake with like something sweet inside. It's generally sweet. In the States, generally you'll see mochi ice cream. So it'll be that kind of rice cake, mochi rice. What's the word I want? Like covering, like the bowl, and they'll fill it with ice cream. But it's more of a sweet kind of rice dough, I suppose.
So that must be the like the pellets in the game that you're going around. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the trophies say slime,
Yes,
but before I even looked at the trophy list, I saw that the game was called Mochi Mochi Boy, and it's a bunch of little colored balls, and I'm like, oh, they're mochi balls, basically.
Yeah. Look, I wonder how many people have picked up on that reference while they idly follow the 12-minute guide for the platinum in that game. I don't know.
Educate yourself.
Yes. Look, please do. That's what we're trying to do for ourselves here. So anyway, look, that is a ton of stuff. As always, Mindy, I would like to thank you for joining us, or for joining me today, and the listener, of course. Where can we find you if we're looking for you?
I am on PlayStationTrophies.org. I'm on the guide team there, so if you want to try your hand at writing a trophy guide, hit me up over there. I will help you through the process. You can also find me on Twitter at TheMindIsACity. I also co-run the Push to Plat Twitter with CJ, and I'm sure he'll tell you more about that.
Yes, sure. So the show does have its own Twitter at push2plat, push2plat. Feel free to come along, follow us, like us, leave us a question, leave us some thoughts or whatever you like. We'd love to hear from you. The show is available on iTunes, Podcast, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and all those other lovely podcast providers that it has attached its tentacles to as it goes out into the world, which is lovely thought to leave us with. So remember people, or people remember, I don't know. Give us a like, a subscribe, or really just whatever. Tell people, tell anyone. I saw a lovely comment on our YouTube channel this week that we help pass the time when people are grinding easy games. And look, what a wonderful way to do it. Turn down the sound and listen to anything. Educate yourself, as Mindy says, or don't educate yourself and just have a good time with a podcast or 5, depending on what you're playing. With that in mind, Mindy, are you free next week? Shall we go again?
Oh, I think I can do it again.
You can? Yeah, well, look, you're not going to be busy with the backlog, so you can carve out a couple of hours for us. I'm sure the listeners will appreciate it. So look, until next time, listeners, good luck on the trophy hunt. Have fun, play nice, be safe. See you next week.
Bye.